Okay, this example says tell whether the angles are adjacent or vertical and then find the value of x. So we have to know these definitions of adjacent or vertical in order to be able to find the value of x. So in example A, these two angles, the x degree angle and the 70-degree angle, are right across from each other. You would say they're opposite from one another, and so that makes them vertical angles. And so we know vertical angles are congruent, and that means the same size. So if they're congruent, that means x is also going to be 70 degrees. So x equals 70. In example B, these two angles share a common side. They are not opposite from one another. They are next to one another, and that means they are adjacent angles. They share that common side there. So they are adjacent. And so being adjacent doesn't mean anything special. Just means next to each other. It doesn't mean they're the same size like vertical angles are. But these two adjacent angles together form a 90-degree right angle. So if I erase this purple line, you actually see that right angle measurement right there, that little red box, which means it's a right angle. And so because they're right next to each other, I know that together these two angles will add up to 90 degrees. So I'm going to make an equation that shows that they will add up to 90 degrees. And so to do that, I'm going to say that the x plus 4 angle plus the 31-degree angle together will equal 90 degrees. And we're just going to solve this equation for x. The first thing you would do solving this equation is you would combine those two like terms, the 4 and the 31 there. They're both positive. So we're going to combine those together to get x plus 35 equals 90. 31 plus 4 is 35. And then we're going to subtract 35 from both sides to get x by itself. And so 90 minus 35 is 55. So we know they're adjacent angles, and we know because they're adjacent and they make this right angle together, that x has to be 55. In example C, we see that these are also going to be adjacent angles because they share this common vertex right there. So I know they're adjacent. And this time, together, they won't add up to 90, but together they form a straight angle. And since we know a straight angle measures 180 degrees, then these two angles together will add up to 180. Again, adjacent just means that they're next to each other. That's not telling me why they add up to 80. The reason why they add up to 80 is these two adjacent angles together form a straight angle. And so if I subtract 85 from both sides, I'll get x equals 95. So the measure of angle x has to be 95. And then you can check your work. Does 95 plus 85 equal 180? It absolutely does. And then in example D here, these two angles are across from each other. They're opposite from one another, so we are going to say that they are vertical angles. You can see this angle x here, and then the right angle. And remember that vertical angles are congruent, so whatever the one of the angles is, the other angle is the exact same because they're vertical, not adjacent, but vertical. So if one angle is 90 degrees, so will the other angle. So x has to be a 90-degree right angle. All right, last example like this. These two angles are right next to each other, so we are going to say that they are adjacent angles. And again, together they are forming a 90-degree angle. So the fact that they're adjacent means they're just right next to each other, but the fact that that's a right angle that they both form means that together they will add up to 90 degrees. So 69 plus 2x minus 1 adds up to 90 degrees. So just like before, I'm going to combine my like terms. My like terms in this case are my constant terms. I don't have more than one variable term, but I do have more than one constant term on that left side. And so 69 and negative 1, different signs subtract, makes 68 plus 2x equals 90. Now we can get rid of that 68. It's a positive 68, so we're going to subtract 68 from both sides, make it go away, leaving us with 2x equals 22. That's what 90 minus 68 is. And then now finally we can divide by 2. And if we divide by 2, we find out that 2 goes into 22 11 times. So they're adjacent angles. Together they form that 90-degree angle, so x has to be 11. And if I plug in my answer, I can double check. 2 times 11 is 22, minus 1 is 21, and 21 and 69 together will make that 90-degree angle.